Hi everyone. Hi everyone. Welcome to ELI, the place where you get your daily dose of inspiration for entrepreneurship. And today we have with us Mr. Ritish Reddy, who is the co-founder at Zluri, helping companies manage their SaaS subscription. Ritish is a graduate of SP Jain School of Global Management and has worked for companies such as Tata Consultancy Services and Nolscape before starting his own venture in 2020. Uh, Hi Ritesh, welcome to ELI.
Hey, thank you, Priya. Great to be part of this podcast. Thanks for inviting me.
Ritesh, I would request you to introduce yourself to our audience, please.
Uh, sure, Priya. Thanks for the wonderful introduction. So, just it will be a recap of what you just mentioned. But quickly, guys, my name is Ritish. I'm the co-founder of Zluri. So, I've been in the startup space for the last 10, 15 years, I would say. This is my third startup in terms of directly being involved as part of the founding team or being a co-founder. This is my third startup. So the first startup that I started was into photography, which was called 35mm Pro. Which was a marketplace for photographers. So that's what I started way back in I think 2010, I would say, around 2010 timeframe. The second one, I was part of the founding team at a tech company called Nolscape. So, been with the company for close to 9 years, built the company across different markets, expanded the company across Asia Pacific, 8 different countries, and then I was briefly in the US, building the US business for them as well. So that was my last work experience. And we started Zluri 6 months back with a mission to simplify the world's adoption to SaaS. So SaaS is a big theme today. So every company is adopting SaaS solutions today, and the SaaS software is becoming oblivious, right? So uh, we are on a mission to make that simple for companies to manage, to track their subscriptions. So that's what we do at Zluri. So that's a quick background about me. In terms of education, so I graduated from VIT Vellore, did my engineering there. Post that, I worked for a couple of years and then did my MBA from SPJ.
Okay,
So that's a bit about me, Priya.
interesting. Um, Ritesh, tell us more about the industry you are operating in, SaaS industry. What is it and how it is evolving, especially in the Indian context?
Uh, SaaS, as most of you would know, is software as service, right? So earlier we used to companies. I still remember back in my childhood days, I used to go purchase a Windows license, right? So there was Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 9, different versions coming out. Some numbers are in there, but essentially the point is these versions used to come out, and I used to go in and purchase CDs, and these were pretty expensive, right? So I still remember it was around 25,000 rupees just for the license, whereas the entire computer assembled computer PC used to cost us 50,000 rupees around that price point, whereas the software itself was 25,000 rupees. And my dad, who's an engineer, a civil engineer, he used to look out for AutoCAD, right? So and all of us had the experience of purchasing the cracked CDs that we used to get in the market, which were like 100 rupees you pay, and but it's a pirated software, right? So that's what it used to be. So today, if you look at it, the entire purchasing of software is democratized, right? So you don't need to pay such an expensive price, but what you do is pay on an ongoing basis. Monthly, if you want to buy Photoshop, it's around 1,000 rupees or 800 rupees, around that price point, and you purchase it on a monthly basis. So SaaS has become easy to consume, and it has also democratized the way companies can be built. Earlier, if someone had to purchase Windows licenses, Photoshop licenses, Figma licenses, and start building companies, they wouldn't be able to do it because the amount of capital that is required is enormous. But today, with SaaS coming in, any and every company is able to get their hands onto some of the most powerful tools in the world and quickly and rapidly build companies, right? So it's driving innovation. So I think SaaS is here to stay because the power it carries with respect to empowering people and also the simplified model in which people can consume, right? So, and a lot of research points saying that SaaS as an industry by 2030, the every software that is consumed in an organization is going to be consumed in a SaaS format. Today, the penetration is at 30% of SaaS tools in organizations. So, rest of the 70% of softwares is still on-premise softwares where there are servers set up and then people consume from that, or they are still purchasing it as a on-desktop software. But by 2030, everything is going to be a SaaS-based software that will exist in an organization. And what we are seeing in India today is the evolution of SaaS tools ground up. So I think early 2000s and 1900s and late 1900s, early 2000s, and till 2010 or so, India used to be known for being the software services hub, right? So we have seen the evolution of companies like TCS, Wipro, Infosys, all these guys making a mark globally and setting up their presence globally. But if you look at the last few years, we are talking about new names. Say, take Freshworks or a bunch of companies which have acquired the unicorn status. A lot of them are in the SaaS space. And number of SaaS companies that you see evolving in India today, it's exponential, right? Because you can build it from anywhere, and the SaaS adoption is happening. And I think in the next couple of years, uh, we will see the likes of TCS, Infosys in the product space, which is the SaaS product space. So that's how quickly software SaaS as a category is evolving in India today. And yeah, so that's where it is, Priya.
Okay, Ritish, I'm very curious to understand more on the SaaS industry. Uh, uh, SaaS seems like an industry which is rapidly growing and very easy to get into. Uh, Having said that, I'd love to understand what are the nitty gritties of starting a SaaS company, especially for those who are listening to us and want to build a SaaS company. What would be your advice to them? How do they start thinking about it?
I think that starting from a basics perspective, I would say any startup starts with whether it's a SaaS company or any other company, right? I think the fundamental point that needs to be identified is a pain point, right? So every company starts from there. So what is the single biggest pain point that companies face or that people face today, right? So if you are able to identify that pain point, then you will be able to come up with a solution for it. So identifying that pain point is going to be important. So now, if I'll just take a couple of examples of my previous companies that we started with. Right, first one was a marketplace for photographers. The pain point there was if I had to hire someone for, say, my family function, I don't know whether the photographer specializes in that particular category. You see a lot of photographers taking passport size photographers. You can't have them come and do a wedding photography, right? So I want to see their pictures, their past work, and then take a call. The pain point there was discovering the right photographer for the right need. So that's a pain point, right? So then you can build a business model around it, whether it's a SaaS or it's a services, whatever it is, right? So then the second startup was into edtech. So where the entire problem statement was learning was dull and boring, right? So you keep listening to the professor, but you're not sure how much do you understand and apply it in the real world. So the problem that we are trying to solve is make it hands-on, make it experiential. Just like pilots have a flight simulator, why can't we build simulators for learning? So the problem statement was how can we make learning more engaging? Today it's dull. How do we make it engaging? So in the current startup, which is Zluri, so the problem statement here is how can we make people manage their software subscriptions better, because there are so many subscriptions, it's very hard to manage, right? So how can we simplify that? So a problem statement is very important for any startup. Now, if you look at SaaS as a category, there is additional parameters that you need to look at. So because if you fundamentally understand the business model of a SaaS, it's a subscription model, right? What it means is companies, your customers will start paying you on a monthly basis or an yearly basis. So they will pay you as long as they are facing a problem. So from that lens, if you look at it, so the problem has to be recurring, right? So that's when you can build a SaaS model around it, right? So today, if you look at, say, there is just taking an example of a printout, right? So I'm just taking a crude example. You need to get a printout, right? So you go to a shop and get it done. Randomly, then you get it. But if there is a recurring need, then you start, instead of charging them for say one piece of paper, you charge saying monthly I'll charge you X dollars. You can I'll give you 5 printouts or 10 printouts. You can create a category around it, right? And then you can start creating a business around it. So the problem to the customer has to be recurring. Once you identify a problem, it has to be recurring. So that's when you'll be able to build a software as a service business. You need to keep servicing the customer through the product that you have on an ongoing basis. So that's the second thing that you need to be mindful of when you are creating a subscription business. So a lot of times we see people creating a subscription based model, but the problem itself is not really recurring. So, and you see companies ending up not paying for the services that they consume. You get 1 month, 2 month, 3 month, they subscribe for your service. Once the problem is solved, you'll see the churn of customers. So they will go away. Again, you need to go back to finding new customers, right? So the whole beauty of the SaaS business is that the revenues that you keep getting is recurring. So the one thing which you need to manage is the churn. So as long as the problem that you are solving is recurring for the customer, so you should be able to uh, have the customer on with you for a longer time than a traditional business, right? So those are the two critical aspects that you would need to look at when you are really thinking about ideating about a SaaS business. So as I would call it, so we are talking about the ideation phase at this point of time.
Okay.
So those are the two things that someone need to look at when they're really thinking about SaaS business.
Gotcha. So, Ritish, I'm also interested to understand what is the logic behind the name. I found it very interesting. The name Zuli, I'm sorry, Zluri. How did you come up with the name, and what is the thinking behind it?
Okay, unfortunately, there is no deep meaning out there, Priya. So what we are looking for was something which was 5 characters. So that's what we are looking for. And whatever brain that we put into come up with very fancy names, very meaningful names, we were unfortunately we weren't able to find a domain available for those names. Then we said we did the back work and said what are the domains which are available,
Okay.
which look which sounds global, which sounds uh, a little futuristic and stuff. So based on that, we shortlisted a couple of them, and within that, we finalized on Zluri. So honestly, there is no backstory to it or a meaning to it.
Okay. Since you have started very recently on this venture, let me ask you about your vision statement, or what is the ultimate thing you want to build out of this venture?
So the ultimate vision for us, so while we are currently focusing on managing SaaS and then managing software licenses, so or optimizing, helping companies optimize their SaaS spends, the ultimate objective for us is to become the single source of truth for IT teams, right? So today, if you look at any other function, say for example HRMS, HR teams, right? So their single source of truth is a HRMS system.
Mm-hmm.
uh, so if they want to know how many employees are there in an organization, what is their salary, how many leaves are pending for them. So all those details, the HRMS system has it. That's where will go in, and that's the single source of truth. There might be multiple other systems, but the most reliable and the only source of truth for them is the HRMS system.
Mm-hmm.
So similarly, if you look at other functions as well, finance, you have a financial management system. There are QuickBooks and other platforms which are out there. So where you'll be able to know what is the revenue outstanding, how much invoicing has been done this month. So all the financial related, that's the single source of truth. But if you look at the IT teams, right, today, what is the tech stack that you're using? How many softwares do you have? Who is assigned which software? So how many subscriptions are we actively using? How many are we not using? So today companies don't have the single source of truth for IT. So, right. So that's what we ultimately want to be, the single source of truth for IT. To a certain extent, there are players like ServiceNow and others who does it for the enterprise segment, but our focus is on the mid-market. So that's where we want to be the single source of truth for IT, helping them manage their software subscriptions and also the workflows that happen between subscriptions, and be the single source of truth for all data that is flowing between across the IT teams and other teams as well, and their customer functions.
Okay. Two major challenges that are faced in the initial days of any venture are recruitment and funding. How are you managing these two puzzles right now?
Sure. So I think recruitment definitely yes. So I think especially so in the SaaS space, because if you are just looking at talent from a technology perspective, I think we have a lot of talent, but getting the top talent is difficult. And at the same time, from a domain perspective, SaaS is pretty new in India. So the amount of talent that you will have for SaaS across various functions, because right from marketing to sales, the way you sell these products and the way you market these products is little different compared to a traditional software selling, right? So there is I would say shortage of talent to begin with in this particular space. So definitely recruitment is a big challenge, I would say. So few things that we've been trying to do, right? So one is at least to an extent it was little easier compared to someone who's starting up first time, because we had a relationship with a lot of people that we have worked in our past work experience, right? So people who believe in your vision, people who believe in your mission, come along with you. So you just need to lay out the right vision and mission, right? So a lot of times you want to get talent, you just think of the dollar you need to spend, then it doesn't get in the right talent sometimes. But when you bring in your vision and mission and communicate that effectively, I think even talent that is unaffordable for you becomes affordable, because they come on board because of the vision and mission. And a lot of people that we are seeing today are excited to get on board onto startups, right? So they want to get into right startups, do something different, find a meaning purpose in life, do something remarkable, get their mark on the product. So that's what they're trying to do. I think finding them is going to be one of the critical part. And once you find them, the early adopters of your from buying into your vision and mission, and then bringing them on board by communicating that effectively is going to be important. So that's what we've been able to do, because that's where we created a longer vision, identified what is the bigger problem that we are trying to solve. First step is to look into the networks that we have and the people that we know. So that's the first source that we reached out to. The second source that we tried to tap into is our alma mater. So wherein each of the three founders coming from different co-founders coming from different institution, BITS Pilani, VIT, SP Jain. So I think we have a strong alumni base as well. So again, there is that connect, right? So that connect helps you to at least give you a channel to communicate your vision and mission for the organization. So those are the primary channels that we tapped into to recruit the initial pool of talent. And post that, I think once you get that initial pool, I think the next phase of hiring is going to be based on the traction that you're able to generate. The more proof that you show for what you are doing, the more success stories that you show, the more positive news, the more client acquisitions that you do, I think that will all bring in the talent. So what you need to do to tap into that talent is to communicate your success stories effectively. So right, so you are building traction, you are doing various fantastic things, you have a great technology, just communicate it, right? So that brings you the talent which is beyond your circle. So right now the first step is to tap into your second level connections through alma mater, second level connections through the past work that you have done, maybe your friends from college, right, who are tech savvy, who are business development savvy. You identify the right people and get them from the second level connections. But over a period of time, you'll dry up with that pool. So the next level will be based on the traction that you are going to build. So that's on the hiring part. Funding part, I would say that at least on that front, we are fortunate enough because all three of us had good track record in terms of building companies in the past. So with that, it has been easier for us to reach out to get a quorum with at least the investors, right? The second step is how are you thinking about the business? How are you planning? How are you driving traction? So from that perspective, that was a simpler exercise for us, I would say, compared to hiring talent at this point of time.
Okay. How do investors approach a SaaS company? Do they favor SaaS companies against other companies, or how is it?
I think today SaaS is pretty hot. I would say from an investment perspective, SaaS is the hottest space right now.
Uh-huh.
So most of the companies that you see getting listed in the US with huge valuations are SaaS companies today.
Mhm.
So most of the top tier VCs are actively looking for SaaS companies today. So there is a huge uh, deal inflow or deal money that is lying around for SaaS, at least as of today. I'm sure this trend will continue at least for the next year or so,
Mhm.
maybe. But there is a huge demand for SaaS at this point of time.
Okay. What are the challenges and failures you have gone through so far as an entrepreneur, be it in this venture or be it in any other venture?
I think uh, while I have co-founded three or been part of the founding team or been a co-founder and three startups, I think prior to that there are many other companies that we wanted to start and then we didn't even take off. Right? I think there are multiple challenges that you faced. I think one of the first things is I think whenever you are picking if you're doing it alone, it's great. But if you're getting along with a co-founder, one thing is you need to have the common vision, right? So and also when you talk about vision, it's not just about the product, but what each of the founders want to do personally, say at least in a medium term, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, right? So you need to have that clarity. You can't have start a company with a co-founder, one who is thinking about going to US for his masters and other wanting to build this product, right? So it will not go anywhere. So there has to be a broad alignment with co-founders who at least believe and align with you on your medium term vision or time frame, right? So there has to be certain time frames that have to be set. So in the earlier companies that we were trying to start right out of campus after our engineering, so that alignment was missing, because of which we weren't able to take off with a few ventures. I would say that's the first lesson that I had learned from uh, starting up perspective. So have an alignment with your co-founder in terms of the medium term vision, and both of them need to, or three of them, four of them, how many ever co-founders it is, have to strongly believe in the vision that is being laid out for the company. And I think that's the first step. So post that, I think there'll be bunch of challenges that you will face. Startups, so your roles are not really clearly defined, right? So if you are getting into that role, so be prepared for getting into diverse activities. So it may not be a core domain, but except for sweeping the floor, so you should be ready to maybe that is also required sometimes, but you should be ready to do any work that generates revenue for you, right? So you need to get into that sort of a mindset. You can't say that, hey, I take care of marketing, I take care of products, so this is the scope that I have, because you're not just a marketing person, but you're the co-founder. So your ultimate objective is to create value for the organization or value for the people who are involved in this particular company. So that's the second advice that I would say: have an open mindset when you are running companies, when you are building companies. So don't bucket yourself saying this is what my expertise. A lot of times we see people starting up companies and saying, hey, VP for XYZ, so on and so forth. So designations, you can have all the fancy designations in the world, but if you start putting that in your mind and categorizing yourself into that particular category, you're setting up yourself for failure. So don't categorize yourself. You are a journalist until you hit certain traction. So that's something is a second key takeaway for me. So you need to work across functions, know things in and out for your product, for your customers, about your ICPs, about how do you do it. So, and communicate that vision very clearly across functions, right? The people who trust and believe in you in the early days come on board just because of the vision. So as you start executing it, take advice, communicate effectively. That's going to be very important. Otherwise, you'll see people losing interest in your vision pretty soon. So that communication is going to be very important as you scale. That's the, I would say, the second most important lesson that I had learned in the early stages of building. But at late stages, there are multiple other challenges that you face. Certain playbooks that you use for certain markets will not work in other markets. So how do you rework it? And you'll start facing with respect to visas, so on and so forth. You want to build a new market, so visa are a challenge. But those are late stage problems. But early stage, I would say these are the two major things that you would need to do to build a very solid foundation for scale.
Okay. I just have two more questions before we wrap it up. Can you tell us what are the learnings or what are the lessons you have learned as an entrepreneur, which can help other entrepreneurs out there to, simply skip or avoid those mistakes?
Yeah, sure. So I think one of the fundamental principle is, I think all of us have various experiences, right? So we have grown up in a certain way. We would have had different experiences, and based on these experiences, we'll come up with those saying, "Hey, this is a problem for the customer. This is what I will go ahead and solve for the customer." But in reality, you are looking at it from your lens, right? So there are multiple people out there, so each of them have their own perspective. So when you come up with this problem statement and the solution that you are building towards it, right from early days, start speaking to people. Right, so speaking to people, talking to them about and get feedback, continuously get feedback, right? So that's going to be important. So that will make your product stronger or help you pivot to something which will work. So don't be in that mindset wherein the problem that has been identified by me is the problem that exists globally, right? So that's a universal problem that may not be so. So you need to identify how big is the problem, what is the market size that is there out there for the problem, right? So your problem might be very local within your community where 10 15 people might purchase it, but then you are not building a business. So one of the key learning in here is that start speaking about your problem. A lot of time people think, hey, if I talk about it, someone might copy it, right? So I think if companies were so easy to be built, so everyone would have been an entrepreneur today. So don't have that mindset. So be open to feedback, be open to pivoting in your early days based on this feedback. Speak to as many people as possible. So that's one of the key learning, right? So you'll get inputs, insights, and feel free to reach out to people. A lot of time people are in their cocoon and think that hey, is this person reachable? So no one is unreachable today. You have LinkedIn. You can write to whoever, CEO, CFO, whatever it is. And a lot of times, I think if you persist, people respond to you, people react to you, right? So that's a learning curve for you on how to reach out to people. So there are enough and more help or access that is available out there. So reach out to them. And I think if you are making 10 attempts, I'm sure you'll one or two attempts will definitely click, right? So feel free to reach out to people. And the more right people that you bring on board, or the more people, right advisors, right inputs that you get, the faster you'll be able to scale with by making lesser mistakes. So that's number two. Number three is, I think, always be keep in touch and be helpful for people, right? So a lot of times when you're building early stage companies, you meet people, you meet your early potential customers. So what you'll see is while you are pitching certain product, the customer will have a different problem altogether, right? So just don't ignore the customer because they don't fit your need, right? So you need to have those, build those champions who can vouch for you in your longer run. So one of the thing that we did in our earlier past was we used to meet our customers, right? So every day we were trying to meet as many people as possible. We had a target to say a minimum of 2 customers every. We were selling enterprise B2B back then. So meet 2 customers every day, right? So when you meet these customers, a lot of them had different needs. So then wherever possible, we used to say, hey, this is a company which does XYZ work, right? They might be potentially be helpful. We used to do research and say, hey, these can be helpful for you in certain cases. So that built a very, I would say, positive karma, right? So wherein these people started becoming champions in the long run, saying they used to refer us. Hey, these guys do solve your particular problem. They used to make referrals. So build that good karma around you, right? So as you in startups, you meet a lot of people. A lot of people want to hear what you're doing, what you're building. So always build that positive karma. I think it's a snowball. So you'll not see any immediate results, but when it gives you back, it's going to be big. So do that. So keep in touch with people. Speak to as many people as possible. Give back to others, help and support them. So that's a community out there to support you. So be there.
Okay, I had another question, but in a way, you have already answered the question. Is there anything else you want to share before we wrap up? I don't have any more questions.
I think I think most of the points we have covered. But if there is any specific thing, happy to answer. So if someone wants to just drop in a message or whatever, my LinkedIn is there, so they can drop in a message as well. Priya.
I must say it was a pleasure to host you here at ALI. I had a lot of learnings, and our audience would have got great lessons from this video as well. Thanks for your time, Ritish, and our best wishes for Zluri. I'm so sorry
Thank you. Thank
having a hard time pronouncing the name. Listeners, you can follow and connect with Ritish on LinkedIn by typing Ritish Reddy. That is it for today's episode. We will be back with another exciting entrepreneur. Stay tuned to ALI.